Myself, I'm Tevis Laukat. I live in south of Salt Lake City, Utah with my wife Cheryl, and we own a company called Cannonball Musical Instruments. Cannonball is a company that we started in 1996, 21 years ago, and it's been a really fun thing to do this. Maybe I'll play just a little bit. I'm what's known as a woodwind doubler. Woodwind doubler is someone who plays more than just the saxophone. So actually I started on the clarinet in the 3rd grade. How many started on the clarinet? Yeah? You know, that's a good way to start. Clarinet gives you a good foundation, good embouchure, support for saxophone. And then in the 6th grade I got a tenor saxophone, which is one of these bigger ones back here. And then the 8th grade came along and learned to play the flute and the piccolo. The piccolo kind of got a combination thing where the flute and the piccolo came together. Went through high school like that, and then when I got to college I learned to play bassoon, and actually was a bassoon major. That's what I wanted to do, was play bassoon. And so much liked playing all the other instruments that I ended up being a doubler. And the last one was oboe. I learned to play the oboe. So here's my alto. This is our big bill alto. It's in black anodized nickel plating, and I have the fat neck on, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. So, just for fun, I'm going to switch things up because that's what Cannonball is good at. This is called the fat neck. I'm going to take the same instrument, put it on my regular neck, and this is in black nickel. And this actually changes the sound also. It's just a different approach to the sound. So that's kind of fun. That just feels different to me, behind the horn. And then maybe, did you hear a difference in the 2 necks? Yeah? Okay, so in our big bill saxophone, the 2 necks come together in that instrument. Maybe I'll play a little tenor for you. Black nickel tenor saxophone. This is our big bill. And kind of fun. And again, I have the fat neck on. So the big bell really makes a difference, especially when I get down into those lower notes. It really is quite fun. So like I did with the alto, maybe I'll switch over, play the traditional neck. And again, I'll talk about that just a little bit as we get going. So, traditional neck in the black anodized nickel, and the octave mechanism is on the top instead of on the bottom. So, same great horn, just a different approach to the sound. So, I'll talk a little bit here now about how we got started. I played professionally for 10 years before we started Cannonball, and I did a lot of movies and live television, and toured with a lot of people across the country. And that was really fun. That was a lot of fun. But as I was doing that and playing my instruments, I was noticing some things that I wished I could change on the instruments, the actual instruments that I was playing, maybe on the stage or in the pit, depending on what performance I was doing. And my wife was actually a band director, and so to start Cannonball was perfect because I had the professional side that I brought some knowledge to, and then she had, being a band director, she saw all the problems that can happen in a band room or the good things that can happen when a child has a good instrument. So we put our minds together and came up with some neat things that we wanted to do and change on the instruments. We set out to find a manufacturer that could help us. And we found, we actually went to the University of Utah, and believe it or not, in '96 computers weren't a big deal yet. And so we went and we looked in books, and we found where a lot of the manufacturers were, set up appointments with them, got on an airplane and went over to the Orient, actually Taiwan, Taichung, Taiwan, which is a city right in the middle of the island. And we stayed in this hotel and would wait for a manufacturer to come by, pick us up, and take us out to the place that they said they could manufacture instruments. When we got out there, we would see what they would do, the process they were making, the materials they were using, and then they'd bring us back, and then we do it again. And we did that all week long, and we went with different manufacturers. Narrowed it down to 3 different manufacturers that we did prototypes with, and what we really wanted to do was take someone who had basic knowledge and then actually build an instrument to our specifications. And so that's kind of where we ended up about a year later, after we had altered and tweaked a lot of things on the basic instrument that they had. That you should have 2 mouthpieces, one that you play in concert band and one that you play in jazz band. The one I'm playing that you heard me hear is for jazz band, obviously. I'm very bright, I'm very loud, and it has a baffle inside that gives me that loud, big sound. But boy, if I'm playing in concert band, that's not the mouthpiece for concert band. It needs to be a different shape inside. So we did a lot of experimenting and a lot of things. That's something at Cannonball that it's been really fun. We have 11 different finishes in our saxophones. One very popular is obviously this black anodized nickel, and it holds up really well. Actually, we've done a lot of things on the instrument to help it hold up in the classroom. We've got double arms on the low B flat and the low B natural and the low C. We have a stabilizing bar for the left-hand spatula. This is something that bothered me forever. I thought this design was not very good in traditional saxophones. There's a lot of keys that actually land on this post, right, these 2 little posts here, and if it gets bumped at all, then you have slop in these big rods that come down for the lower keys. So what we did is we silver soldered a post to the body, and then it comes up and over and ties to there so that it's extremely solid and holds up really well in the classroom situation. Another thing that was kind of fun that we did, you can't see them real well, but I'm going to talk about it. We have something called a relief spring on the G sharp and on the low C sharp. And so those that play saxophone, you guys know maybe that when you play and you put the horn away and you bring it out the next day, a lot of times the C sharp is stuck shut, right? It's kind of stuck closed, and also the G sharp. Well, the relief spring forces those 2 keys open so that you will never get stuck playing maybe a solo where it should be G sharp and it's G because that note doesn't open. So those are some little things that kind of bothered us, and we designed and put on the instrument. Another real fun thing is and we come to work and come up with these crazy ideas, but this is something my wife came up with, Cheryl, and she came to work and said, you know, it'd be kind of fun to have our saxophone look a little different. If you look at, like, a lot of traditional saxophones, they have mother of pearl. In other words, these touch pieces are all white, right? Okay, and on the student ones, generally they're plastic, and then they could be a mother of pearl on the more pro instruments. These are actually semi-precious stones, And the semi-precious stones work really well in distinguishing our instrument and making it look a little different. In fact, we even put one on the neck. If you can see, there's an oval stone right there. The interesting thing was, in the beginning, when we went to build the stones or put the stones on the instrument, it was just a cosmetic thing. We wanted it to look different so that maybe you saw someone on television and you could see immediately that it was our instrument. But the cool thing about it is, when we were testing, we had like rubber cement. We'd put the stones in, and then we'd pull them out and do some testing, and then we'd pull them out and put the mother of pearl in its place. And when we did that, the acoustics lined up completely different on the instrument. I know it's hard to believe, but it's like a completely different instrument. The overtones landed more in a pocket, more secure with the stones rather than the mother of pearl. The only thing we can think of, because I weighed the stones, is the mother of pearl. It didn't seem to be any heavier, but the density of the stone compared to the mother of pearl was quite significant. It's, for those that know technical terms, Rockwell hardness of a 6 or a 7 for the stone, and mother of pearl is about a 1.5. And so we think that the density of the stone actually changes that. We actually have stones on the touch pieces on the side of the saxophone, like the side keys here, and the palm keys up here. And you can actually get different size stones. So these are the standard stones, but if you've got really big hands and you want it to be a little closer, like for me, I'd probably put some bigger stones right there because I'm so far apart. You can get 6, 8, and 10 millimeter stones instead of the standard stone that's on there.